Imagine you are sitting in a language learning class and the teacher is teaching one of the Indian language, and what happens if he or she starts from k, ka, ki, ku instead of u. Hey guys, welcome to my legal classes. This is Ganesh Pujari, and in the series of Indian Constitution, today I am going to touch up on the very essential early part of Indian Constitution, that is of Indian Constitution, that is Preamble of Indian Constitution. To start the study of Indian Constitution, we have to start from the preamble. And in this lecture, which looks little lengthy, what are we going to cover? That I am explaining in my next slide. And after seeing my next slide, you can choose what you want to watch and what you can skip for the purpose of exam. But for the purpose of knowledge, try to watch the entire video, which is a very interesting story. With that, I am taking you to first slide. So what are we going to learn from this particular presentation, or what is inside this presentation? We have 7 important aspects that are being covered in this presentation. Firstly, we will try understand from where the word preamble came, its meaning, etc. And the next slide will explain the sources of Indian Constitution, and then we will get into the preamble of Indian Constitution. We will read out the preamble of Constitution there, and the next slide we will try learn few of the important term or the meaning or what they indicate. All of that we will learn in the next slide, and after that we will learn whether the preamble is the part of Indian Constitution or not. There we are understanding 3 important case laws, and immediately after that, which is almost continuation or which can be learned together, is can the preamble amended? That question will also continue with the same case laws, and finally I have 8 other case laws which are connected to preamble terms. I hope that gives a lot of information to you guys. With that, let's get into our next slide where we will understand the meaning of the word preamble. In this slide, let us try understand the meaning of word preamble. First thing first, where is this word coming from? This is coming from the Latin word preambulus, which means walking before, or in simple term we can say what is coming or explaining what's there in the future. Like for example, while learning the Indian language, ka, cha, ta, ta, pa, when we continue that with ka, ka, ki, ku, or cha, cha, chi, chi, chu, ta, ta, ti, ti, tu, ta, ta, ti, ti, tu, pa, pa, pi, pi, pu, like that, we have the base, that is u. So if you are trying to understand the Indian language, the first part of Indian language, that is u, and the continuation will give us an understanding that what is coming in the future, that is in the form of ka, cha, ta, ta, pa. So that way u stays as the base. Like that, preamble for Indian Constitution or any law is an introduction or gives an idea as to what is coming further. If you ask me what is the general meaning of preamble, a preliminary or preparatory statement or an introduction is preamble, and in legal sense we can call it as the introductory part of a statute or a deed which states its purpose, aims, and gives justification. Now in a nutshell we can say preamble is an introductory statement which briefly explains the document's philosophy and also explains the objective of that particular document or law. Now what is a preamble of Constitution consist, or what are the different aspects that are being covered by the preamble of a particular constitution? These are the important aspects, that is, it presents the intention of its framers, it covers the history behind its creation, it also explains the core values and principles of the nation, it gives what is the source of the constitution, along with that it says the nature and objects of the constitution along with date. Now these are the important aspects you need to remember as far as the meaning of preamble. The next important aspect that we need to understand here is what are the different sources of preamble of Indian Constitution, along with that how it was included in Indian Constitution. So we need to understand 2 major parts. First, the external sources of the Indian Constitution's preamble, and then how it was included in the Indian Constitution, the process. The first part, what are the different external sources? The first very important three words, that is we the people. When we start the Indian Constitution, we say we the people of India. So we the people, that is been taken from the US Constitution. So that's the first thing you need to remember. Then if you see our preamble, which we are going to read out in our next slide, we have four major objects, that is in the form of justice, liberty, equality and fraternity. Now we got justice from the Soviet Union, that concept is coming from there, and then we got inspired by France Constitution, from where we took other three objects, that is liberty, equality and fraternity. And we also took the ideal of republic from the France Constitution. So these are the important external sources that we have utilized to conclude the preamble of Indian Constitution. And who presented it? That is the second part of the story. On 13th December 1946, Jawaharlal Nehru presented an objective resolution of Indian Constitution. So this objective resolution got unanimously adopted on 22nd January 1947. While learning the preamble of Indian Constitution, why am I bringing objective resolution here? Guys, remember the objective resolution which was presented by Jawaharlal Nehru on 13th December 1946 and then which was unanimously adopted on 22nd January 1947, earlier considered as underlying principle of the Constitution, but then on 26th November 1949 we have adopted that as the preamble of Indian Constitution, and then on 26th January 1950 along with the entire Indian Constitution, this also came into force. This is the story of how we got the preamble of Indian Constitution. So now that we know the different sources of preamble of Indian Constitution, and we also learned the process that how did we added preamble in the Indian Constitution. We have discussed so much, but then comes the very important question. If we are discussing so much about the preamble of Indian Constitution, then where is the preamble? That is in my next slide. Guys, remember you have no other option than by hearting it for the purpose of exam and for the purpose of your life, as well as to understand this journey of Indian Constitution. That's a very, very important slide. Let's get into that particular slide. So here comes the beautiful preamble of Indian Constitution, and I will read it once. We the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individuals and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 49, do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this Constitution. What a beautiful document. The only thing required here is you need to by heart this beautiful document. That's the toughest part of it, but however, I will make you to understand this easily or by heart easily by putting it in a structure in my next slide. But before we reach there, you need to see or observe that there are three words which I have kept in red font, that is socialist and secular in the second line, and then in fraternity and integrity I have put in red font. Why? Because these are the three words which are added via 42nd Amendment Act 1976. Guys, remember when you are writing in exam, you cannot put them in red font. What you have to do is you have to underline these three words, and below you have to very clearly mention that these three words are added via 42nd Amendment Act 1976, which ensures you additional marks on the same. That's a very important aspect. In few of the competitive exams, this specific question is asked. What are the three words which are being added via 42nd Amendment Act 1976. So you should know them. Now you are behearting this. After that, what happens? I will explain in my next slide which are the few important terms that you need to explain, and I will also give how we have to structure the preamble of Indian Constitution in my next slide. As far as the question related to the structure of the preamble of Indian Constitution, we can divide it into four different aspects. The first being what is the source of Indian Constitution, second being the nature of Indian Constitution, third being the objects of Indian Constitution, and fourthly on what date we adopted the Indian Constitution. Now these are the four important pillars which are covered under the Indian Constitution. Now let us try understand them one by one. What is the source of Indian Constitution? It is in the first line, it is in the beginning, that is, we the people of India. That means this constitution is coming into enactment or coming into force because we the people of India have decided to bring it in. So that's the very important aspect. The source of Indian Constitution is we the people of India. That is what you need to remember. The second pillar is the nature of Indian Constitution. In the source, we have one source, that is the people of India, but when it comes to nature, we have five important nature of Indian Constitution, that is sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic. Now what is sovereign? Sovereign means we are an independent state. India is an independent nation. That is what sovereign means. So we decide what is good for us, what is bad for us. Anything related to foreign policy or starting a war, ending a war, or whatever related to India, we decide for ourselves. No other countries or the government of any other nation will decide as to what India has to do. We ourselves decide that what we have to do as far as India is concerned. That means we have sovereignty. That is the word meaning of sovereign. That is the first nature. Then comes socialist and secular, which are being added via Amendment Act 42nd, which I have already explained. Now what does socialist means? Socialist in simple term means a dream of having welfare state. Now we have tried to cover few of the objects under DPSP like equal wages for equal work, distribution of wealth, removal of poverty, all of this to achieve socialist state. Now that's the second nature of Indian Constitution, and the third one, which is again an amendment provision, that is secular. Now we need to remember that India as a state doesn't have any religion as such, but the citizens of India can practice, profess and propagate any religion. Now these are the three important words that you need to remember. Citizens of India can practice any religion, or they can profess or adopt any religion, and they can do propaganda or they can spread any religion. This is about secular state. The next two natures are we are democratic and republic. What does democratic means? We the people of India elect the Indian government. Now when it comes to the Prime Minister of India, we elect him directly, and the nominal head of the state, that is President, we are electing via our representatives. So the real head, Prime Minister, is elected by the people of India, and the nominal head, that is President, elected via people of India indirectly because their representatives are electing the President of India. That way it is democratic government, and we also have republic form because there is no monarchy or hereditary nominations, etc. Now the father is ruling. That doesn't mean that his son will also rule. People will decide who will rule them in the next election. So people have this right. That is what we need to remember. That way we are republic country. So the last two nature of Indian Constitution is democratic and republic. So what are the five natures? Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic. I hope that's very clear. And when you are writing about democratic, you can also mention about universal franchise, that is voting power for all adults who have attained the age of 18 years. That one point you can mention. That's about the second pillar of the preamble, that is nature of constitution. And now let's move to the third pillar, which covers the objects of constitution. When we say objects of constitution under the preamble, there are four major aspects we need to keep in our mind. They are justice, liberty, equality and fraternity. Under justice, again we have three different types of justice very clearly mentioned: the social justice, economic justice and political justice. And after that we have liberty, which gives five different types of liberty, starting from liberty of thought, liberty of expression, liberty of belief, liberty of faith and liberty of worship. These are the five liberties that are very clearly mentioned under preamble. And then we have two types of equality: equal status and equal opportunity. And finally we are moving towards fraternity. Now, how to promote fraternity? There are two different ways mentioned there: by assuring the dignity of the individual as well as unity and integrity of the nation. Now, that is how very nicely the objects of the constitutions are crafted under the preamble of Indian Constitution. And the fourth pillar is about the date. It very clearly mentions on 26th November 1949 we adopt, enact and give to ourselves this constitution. So we the people of India are giving this constitution to ourselves. That is the whole and soul that you need to understand from this particular slide. And if anyone is facing any difficulty in by hearting the entire preamble of Indian Constitution, as I have given in my previous slide, at least try to understand this slide and put it in your answer sheet so that you get most of the score. That is what I can say. And with that, let's move to the next slide. The next very important question for which you need to know the answer is whether preamble is part of Indian Constitution or not. And what is the answer? The answer is yes, preamble is the part of Indian Constitution. But if you write just yes, you will not get marks. So what you have to do, you have to mention three very important case laws, and Beraburi Union case is the first case from where it all started. Here I have covered para 31 from the Beraburi Union case, where if you see closely, I have two sentences which are in bold. First thing, we all need to understand from para 31 that the judiciary said preamble is a key to open the mind of the makers. So preamble is very important part of the Indian Constitution, that they have agreed. But if you see the next line where I have put in red font, where it is very clearly mentioned, nevertheless the preamble is not a part of the Indian Constitution. I hope you are understanding it. As far as Beraburi Union case is concerned, preamble is important, but it is not the part of the Constitution. I hope that is very clear. But that's not the end. That's just the beginning. Then comes the cases of all cases. That is Kesavananda Bharati case, where if you read para 2246, it is very clearly mentioned preamble is a part of the Constitution. And again, if you read para 2177, it is very clearly mentioned the preamble walks before the Constitution and it is identity card. They have very clearly mentioned under para 2246 that preamble is a part of the Indian Constitution, which again held in the LIC of India case by mentioning under para 482, I believe, the preamble of the Constitution, which is an integral part and scheme of the Constitution. So there again they held that preamble is the part of Indian Constitution. That's how you need to answer as far as the question related to preamble is the part of the Constitution or not. You need to understand this slide very clearly, because the next question is also answered from the continuation of these case laws, that is related to whether preamble can be amended, which I am explaining in my next slide. So in our previous slide with the Kesavananda Bharati case, we understood that preamble is the part of the Constitution, and the next question arises from there whether preamble can be amended or not. Now, before we get into this question, we need to understand that Parliament has the power to amend the Constitution under Article 368. That is a very important article you need to mention in your answer. Now, that is what covered under Kesavananda Bharati case also. I have read the first half of the para 2246 of Kesavananda Bharati judgment, but here if you read the entire line, it very clearly says preamble is a part of the Constitution and it is not outside the reach of the amending power under Article 368. Yes, it is the part of the Constitution and yes, it can be amended. That is why I have repeated that image yes. So the answer in a nutshell is yes, preamble can be amended. And that is the result we saw in the year 1976 via 42nd Amendment Act, where we added socialist, secular and integrity. And remember, Kesavananda Bharati case is not just about that. It also discussed about basic structure doctrine, for which I already have an independent video. Now there they very clearly told that you should not disturb the basic structure of the Constitution, and they also told when you are amending any part of the preamble of the Constitution, you should not disturb the basic philosophy. That is very important. That is why when the amendment happened in the year 1976 via 42nd Amendment Act, the basic philosophy was not disturbed. Rather, they added additional philosophies like socialist concept, secular concept and the concept of integrity. That is what we need to understand from this entire slide, and whatever I have told, the entire notes is also available in this slide. I hope that helps. With that, I am taking you to the last slide where we have another 8 case laws which we will go through quickly. Well, whatever we studied till here was very important for every student, but this one slide I don't think it is required for every student. But if you are going to do some presentation in your college related to preamble, this is a very important slide which will definitely add value to your presentation. Now here I have 8 important case laws which are connected to the few important words which are covered under preamble. The first case law that I am bringing in here is the Union of India versus Madan Gopal Kabra, where it was very clearly said that the authority of the Indian Constitution is citizen of India, and that is covered under the first 3 words, that we the people of India, we the people. So that makes it very clear that the citizens of India are the authority of Indian Constitution, which was what held in this particular case law. The next 2 case laws are related to the term socialist. The first among them is D.S. Nakara versus Union of India case, where it was held or observed that why did the constitution makers added the term socialist in the Indian Constitution? Because they wanted to make provision in the Constitution which can provide a decent life to the Indian citizens. That is why that term is added, which is what held in D.S. Nakara versus Union of India case, whereas in Air India Statutory Corporation versus United Labour Union, it was held, or the court states that the main purpose of the concept of socialism is to establish social order through the rule of law. That is what held here. The next very important case law, that is the Ahmedabad St. Xavier College versus State of Gujarat, is related to the term secular in the preamble of the Indian Constitution, and this was beautifully explained by the Supreme Court of India by saying secularism does not mean anti-religion, but it means that the state will respect every religion and should not interfere in their practices, but does not follow any religion. So state has no religion, but people have all right to follow the religion that they believe, which is what held in the Ahmedabad St. Xavier College versus State of Gujarat case. The next 2 case laws are related to the term democratic. The first one here is Mohanlal Tripathi versus District Magistrate, where it very clearly explained that the term democratic means the involvement of the people in administration, whereas in the case law of Union of India versus Association for Democratic Reforms and other, the court observed that democracy is the important essential of a welfare state. The people should get a chance to elect their leaders who can act for the people. Now we always hear for the people, by the people, to the people. Now that is what democracy is all about, which is what held in Union of India versus Association for Democratic Reforms and another. The next case law is related to justice, that is Air India Statutory Corporation versus United Labour Union, where the court observed that the aim of justice is to secure the political, social, economic interest of the citizen and provide the opportunity and standards of life and allow them to live with dignity. That is related to justice. The last concept, the last case law that I am bringing in here is on liberty, and this is not Indian case law, that is US case law. And why I am bringing it here, because when it comes to liberty, US has its own history, and this case law is very important to understand the term liberty, that is Mayer versus Nebraska. Now here in this case, the court observed that the term liberty does not mean absolute freedom, but the freedom with some lawful social control in order to protect the interest of other people. Now you have fundamental right. That doesn't mean that you can disturb the enjoyment of others of their fundamental rights. That's what we need to remember. So to that extent, there is restriction also. That is what held in this particular case law. I hope you got sufficient or more than required amount of content in this video, and with that I am handing over this presentation to Nishan. Nishan, before I hand it over to you, I forgot to explain about one word, that is the word fraternity. That word we have seen in the preamble. Fraternity means brotherhood. I just forgot to tell about that. Fraternity means brotherhood.
Life is not just about working. Sometimes you need to take a break. With that, I am concluding this session. Please subscribe our channel. Please